The time is 5:30, and I call this meeting to order. Roll call, Mario Silva.
Present.
Oscar Medrano.
Present.
Rudy Corona.
Present.
Dr. Ariel Cruz.
Present.
Frutoso M. Gomez Jr.
Present.
Orlando Lopez.
Present.
Teresa Cervellon.
Present.
Stephen Weller.
Present.
And I'm here. We do have a quorum present. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Before we begin, I will remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling public comment. The public comment portion of our meeting is available to members of the public who wish to address any topic. Anyone who would like to speak during public comment must sign in prior to the start of the meeting and list the topics they want to discuss. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board for each topic. If more than 10 speakers are signed up to speak on the same topic, all additional speakers on that item shall be limited to 2 minutes. However, any public testimony speaker who requires a translator will receive up to 6 minutes to address the board. Please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous. Please avoid using profanity and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Lastly, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own children. If a speaker is seeking board resolution of a specific complaint, that concern should be addressed through the district's grievance process. District policy DGBA has been established for addressing employee complaints. Policy FNG is the avenue for filing parent complaints, and Policy GF addresses community member complaints. Grievance forms may be obtained at any campus administration office or at the district central administration office. Thank you. Our first speaker is Ms. Mary Maney. Ms. Maney, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno, Superintendent Sevion, board members, and rest of the staff here. I had 2 things I wanted to bring up. One is, I know I mentioned it the last time, but we seem to be seeing some more numbers increasing as far as the sickness coming in that is COVID-related, RSV-related, and we're running into people that are running out of leave. They don't have leave. They're taking dock time because early on in the school year, they had to take the 5 days mandated by the CDC. And, you know, of course, they may not have been really sick at that point in time. And it's just one of these that it's kind of creating a hardship now towards the end of the school year. So again, I do realize this is kind of the cart before the horse on this, but if we could do something or figure out some way for next year. I know you cannot predict illnesses and stuff like that. It would be nice if you could, but you know, it's tough for some of the teachers as it is. So again, it's one of those that several people have made comments about it, and it's, again, I will bring it up, and thank you for listening to me and possibly considering it. The other thing is, thank you very much for the speed in which you have addressed the issue of finding a new principal for the high school. There's nothing against Miss Amy. Amy Rodriguez is a fantastic person, but she's covering 3 major jobs, and you know it's kind of tough on her too. So it's like it'd be really nice to get in the cell, get a feel for what we need to do for the rest of what we're doing. So I do appreciate the speed in which that you have taken this in and actually had people apply and taken this into consideration. So thank you very much for what you're doing on this. It does make life a lot easier on the, especially as a teacher at the high school. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker tonight is Beatriz Palomino Villarreal. Welcome.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for stating my name correctly on that legal document that you just called out on, since it is a legal document. And we all know who you already know who I am, Bean. And I want the community to know that I am a devoted advocate member to our community, not like some, that are here to speak about the topics that do bother a lot of parents but are afraid to come before you guys, whether it's for intimidation or they're afraid they might get ignored, or it becomes where it's questionable, is it going to be favoritism? So last week I did bring up some topics, and I can't seem to let them go. And it has to do with our children, of course, on campus, and how it's being questioned, rumored that I need to stay quiet on it, and I can't. I'm not gonna stay quiet. I'm not gonna stand here afraid of some people just because of who they are or who they think they are. I'm here to let them know that I'm going to speak on their behalf, always. I will be an advocate for our community. I want to move on to the cybersecurity attack. Once again, I saw just earlier today, Channel 5's, the resident from here mentioned that she only got one letter. I don't know how many letters y'all need to send out. I think they need maybe 5 or more so they can understand that it wasn't Joss's fault. Yes, it happened under y'all's watch, like she likes to say, but what does she want y'all to do? What more does she want? Does she want y'all to call the credit bureau for her? We can only advise our community what they can do, and one of them is call the credit bureau. And they're gonna go ahead and flag you. That's it. What they should be questioning is the files that are missing. Why would somebody attack our district? Out of all districts around here, why ours? I know I questioned it. Y'all haven't questioned it? All the money that's missing, money that was given out to contractors, and if we don't find those things, what's gonna happen? Are we gonna be stuck in a hole? In a bigger hole? And the only ones that are gonna pay for it are the community members with our taxes in the future. So rather than questioning what else is gonna happen with our identity, I mean, we're all adults, independent individuals, grown people, call the credit bureau and take care of it. Unless they need you all to do it for them. And that's probably gonna be the next favor or question coming up with them. I'm gonna move to my next topic, bullying. Bullying used to be a thing back then, students on students. Groups of students bullying one student. Sadly, it's come to an end. And I say sadly because I'd rather have it students with students than teachers or adults bullying students. There's a board member to my right, the right end, Yossa's left. He went and bullied my daughter at Chick-fil-A. I had no business talking anything about my daughter to the manager. He actually stated, oh, her mother's a problem. You might think I'm a problem starter. I'm actually a problem solver. And he said the apple probably didn't fall too far from the tree. I could say the same about you. The apple didn't fall too far from the mother's tree, huh?
You got proof?
Yeah,
Where is it?
my daughter. Her boss. What more do you want? If you want to
facts.
bully
Speak
my
facts.
daughter,
Speak
I am
facts.
speaking facts, and I'm telling them directly to
Ma'am.
you.
Ms. Palomino and Mr. Lopez, I'm gonna stop you both right now. We're here to listen. We are not here to engage in conversation. So continue, if you would.
So for me, the bullying needs to stop. If they have something to say to our children, to my children, call me directly. You have my number. There's also a VMA administrator that, since I did address an issue with him towards my son, they seem to eyeball my son. And they're giving him a stare. What do they want? For my son to engage into an argument? Because that's gonna happen. The apple didn't fall too far from the tree with my son either. So you can imagine the attitude that he carries. But of course, there's only gonna be one person in trouble. Last semester, before Christmas vacations, an elementary teacher bullied two 10-year-old kids, one being my cousin. She took him into her classroom, and of course, her story is different from the two little girls. On why was she texting her daughter bozo? That's actually a good word. grammar coming from a 10-year-old, because the grammar that these kids use nowadays is almost like it's adult speaking. JJAEP, Mr. Maldonado, bullied also a 13-year-old. Why? Because he thinks he's a menace?
Ms. Palomino, your time is up for that topic. Your next topic is dress code.
Yes, dress code violations. There has been a great improvement. We did notice that at the beginning of the year with Mr. Galvan. He changed a lot of things. He put a lot of things in order. Like I said, he found mutual ground. He found that common ground. But lately, there's been dress code violations, depending who the kid is, the child. We're gonna determine if they go to ISS or not. I have facts for that too, just the way I have facts for everything else that I state. I have a picture here with me, and it's of a teacher who happens to be neighbors to board member to the right of me. She's allowed to wear tights. She's allowed to wear pretty much anything. Like, you're walking a corridor, your hallways, not Skid Row, you're doing a hallway, dress appropriate for the kids. You want the kids to dress appropriate? Well, then let's go ahead and let the teachers dress appropriate. We're gonna have an engagement with what? Student-teacher affairs? And I have the pictures with me. I'll be more than happy to email them to you. But once again, she feels she can get away with it because the neighbor, this board member, actually encourages all of this. Go ahead, do it. Nothing's gonna happen. And I think that the way our kids get those dress code violations, she should also get. Our teachers should also get those violations. The way kids get referrals, what do those teachers get? The referrals follow our kids from elementary all the way through high school to the end. And depending on what happens, what other things they get, it follows them in the future. So, I know mine, it followed me. I have a ghost that follows me all the time, but it's okay, I'm dealing with it. And I'm actually showing my kids not to do those things. It's called accountability. And I think a lot of these teachers need to be held accountable for what they do. Moving on to my next topic, vaping. I'm gonna go back. Six victims all committed the same crime, only like I said, one of these victims committed a larger crime. He had pills and a weapon. Recently, I was told that a knife, as long as the blade is not past 5.5 inches, is not considered a weapon to carry on campus. Should I let my son carry one? And every other kid? How many kids are we gonna have cutting each other in a fight? I've seen how violent our fights are in the school system. I actually saw a young lady go directly towards an administrator, and he was only trying to separate the fight. Knowing that they said that was not a weapon, a pencil's a weapon, a pencil. When are we gonna press charges? When the kid uses it on a teacher? Or when the family presses charges against our district? That's not right. A weapon's a weapon. And if the kids, we're gonna pick and choose who's gonna be, it's gonna be a weapon on who? It doesn't work like that. We can't sugarcoat everything for certain people. It's gotta be equal, consistent. And that, when they told me that, I was like, and then I was told also that last semester, an elementary student also had a knife, and there was nothing they could do. Elementary, that child had an intention. When you carry a knife, a gun, and once again, those are premeditated things. Like, what type of issue do we want there to be, or who do we have to bury for it to be considered a weapon and then do something about it? This kid has gotten away with it. That's not right, you know. Is it because he's a pretty boy and the judge knows that his nephew, Judge Garza knows that his nephew cannot handle being in juvie? What happens to pretty boys? Or because he's terrified, just the way every other kid is, because 99.9% of the times, kids are terrified when they're going there. But they have that, but they don't know the consequences. But because he's got that silver platter, we can go ahead and disregard him and go back to school. In the meantime, this juvenile cruises up and down the main hallway, doing his thing, still vaping, flagrantly, flouting the rules just like his uncle, the judge. We bend them for him, but we can't bend them for anyone else.
Ma'am, your time up is on that topic. And move on to your next.
Consistency and punishment. We need to be consistent with the punishments with our children. I am here to ask again, and I'll be back again with parents. This juvenile needs to get the same punishment to the equal part that the other children have been held to. The way that they're doing time, he has to do time. It's not fair. I have grievance forms here of parents that I'm gonna turn it in for them. They're asking, why did he get away? They didn't know. It was kept, of course, under the radar, because nobody ever wants to say anything bad about the nephew of the judge, because it's not, once again, we don't want something bad to happen to him, but we can let something happen to these other kids. We need to be consistent with the punishments with our teachers as well. If they're bullying my kids, our kids, they're allowed to violate the dress code rules and get away with it. How come my kids can't? My kid was getting placed in ISS for wearing joggers. This female's wearing tights. Like, buena ni tan buena, like for her to be dressing that, like wearing that. Like, come on, like, what are we showing our children? What? Anatomy? She's not even an anatomy teacher. Like, I'm having trouble wrapping that around my head. And so are my children, and so are other parents. I can tell here who it concerns and who it doesn't. And I don't know how that person doesn't get punished for bullying. But if my child bullies, my child gets in trouble. And the teachers are going to say, well, why do I get in trouble? Why am I going to get in trouble if the leader of the pack isn't getting in trouble? That's what we voted for? Us as people, that's what we voted for? I want them to see. I asked people to log on today live so they could see his actions, his behavior, what I have to say, because many people don't know. But I'm here to expose the dirty deeds that these people do. Moving on to my next subject, JJAEP. These kids are being sent there. I logged on and I was looking at their data, and it stated how, I believe it runs from 5th all the way through 12th. There's an 11-year-old all the way from the age going up to 19. They're not categorized by age group. They're actually in general population, they're mixed. You have a 13-year-old in a room with a 19-year-old. What do you think they're gonna learn? Do you think that they're actually gonna get passed on, like, don't come on this career path, you know what, go back, like, don't do these things? No. I look at it as a community, like a county jail, JJAEP. You go to county, you're gonna learn who are your little plugs, who got caught, who didn't. You're gonna learn where you can go where's a new plug. When you go to a federal prison, that's like a university. You're only growing to be kingpin, where the bigger dealers are. So JJAEP is like a little county jail for our children, for these kids. Last year, my son got enough credits to be passed to 10th. I asked the counselor if I could pass, if my son could be going to the high school with my daughter. I would rather have him go to the high school with my daughter so she can keep an eye on him. She's like, oh, no, I don't think that's a good idea because he's only 14 mixed with 10th, 11th, and 12th. But the 10th, 11th, 12th graders do go to the BMA. I don't know what the difference is there. They're still mixed. If they can frown upon that, why can we have a 13-year-old hanging around with a 19-year-old? JJP is supposed to rehab your child. Where are they rehabbing these children? My friend is actually, but that is also why the judge doesn't want his nephew in there, because it's just like way worse. You're amplifying this children's attitude to only worsen along with their habit. Whatever's in this vape, it's an addiction that these kids cannot remove themselves from. And there's no rehab for them. They're not getting any guidance to help move away from this addiction that we are having a problem with. Had this been reversed and had it been stopped when I brought it up, this 13-year-old recently got caught in JAP, and Mr. Maldonado assured me that every morning they would get searched. We have this parent calling him every day, and she's like, I'm that mom. I don't care if the kids want to call me or call my son names. Drugs are being passed in that school. They're carrying it in there. Her son recently got caught, and only her son, 13 years old, sent to juvenile. 10 days. He's a baby. That's a baby. But we have him mixed with general population with a 19-year-old. What are we teaching? Time. It's a perfect time and the perfect reason and season for me to say that I don't like the minority group. And I'm ready to run against you to actually show my community that I care. I don't care about my pockets. I don't care if they grow. I'm fine with it. I care about our kids. I care about the parents, that they need to know that there's something that they can do about it. I need them to know that if we have a board that's united, unified, not causing that line, that separation, that division, our children can get out of this. It worries me seeing that this 13-year-old, his life can spiral downhill, because we didn't go another route. We'll never know if the judge's nephew's gonna spiral downhill, because he never let him enter that place. He's allowing other kids to worsen their lives and their families, but not his. I ask you guys to please look into this, because I have facts before me that I can present. I would give them to you all at the same time, but we all know that the board member to my right is the mole that leaks everything out to everyone in the media, his friends, and you just can't be trusted, and you need to be kicked out of this board already. It's time. It's time for everyone to know. And I am willing, I have my pen drive that shows that has a recording of all the meetings that we had in our closed session, so they can hear how much you care about our children, what you really care about. And if you don't belong here, you need to be removed. That goes for all of you that shouldn't be sitting here. You don't even have children, and you want to try to show us that you know how to care for them. That's all I have to say.
Ms. Palomino, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 2.1, and we're going to scratch that since we have no business to. We don't, do we? Right? Okay, no purchases. So then we move on to closed meeting. In accordance with Texas Government Code Open Meetings Act, the board may move into closed session for the following reasons: Section 551.071 for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. Section 551.074 for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. Section 551.082, certain school board deliberations. The time is 5:55 when we move into executive session. Okay, the time is 7:49 and I call this meeting back to order. We reconvene into open session. Action on matters considered in closed session. Item 4.3, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of employment of La Paloma Elementary Principal. Ms. Cervellon?
Yes, sir. We are recommending for employment, principal position at La Paloma Elementary, Dr. Lucas Gomez.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Mrs. Cervellon's recommendation? We have a motion by Mario Silva, a second by Oscar Medrano. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Item 4.4, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of employment of San Benito High School Principal. Ms. Cervellon?
Yes, also the recommendation for San Benito High School principal is Marcus Isasi.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve Ms. Cervellon's recommendation for high school principal?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Ariel Cruz and a second by Mario Silva. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, that's all the agenda items that we have. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, we have a motion by Mario Silva and a second by Rudy Corona. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Meeting's adjourned, 7:50. Have a good night.